Hello, friends, and welcome to part 2 of Lesson 4, George Washington, in our CKLA Domain 12, Presidents and the United States Symbols. All right, on our last read aloud, we learned a lot of things about George Washington. Think in your head if what you remember is true. Did you recall that George Washington was looking tired because it was near the end of the war? Absolutely. And that there was a General Gates wanted to take over the country because so many of the soldiers were tired and they had been fighting for so long, but they hadn't been paid. And so they wanted to take over the government. But George Washington was no, no, no. If we wanted that, we could just be like our monarchy. So let's hear what George Washington decides to do. Keep thinking about how those spectacles made an impact on the soldiers. So remember, George Washington is going to try to convince the soldiers to think his way of thinking instead of General Gates. Washington took out some of the papers he had brought along and began to read them aloud. When he finished, no one cheered or clapped. I failed, he thought. They're too angry to listen to what I have to say. Then he remembered something. Wait, he told the soldiers. I have one more paper to read to you. He took out a paper, but the writing was smaller than on the other papers, and he could not see it clearly. He held it away from himself, then closer, but nothing helped. Then, to the surprised soldiers, Washington took out the spectacles. They had never seen him use them before. Why does Washington need those spectacles? Absolutely, because he can't see. Fumbling to open them, Washington said, Gentlemen, you will permit me to put on my spectacles, for I have not only grown gray, but almost blind, in my service to our country. In that moment his soldiers felt ashamed. They remembered how strong George Washington had always been, and how he had always helped them. Like Billy Lee, they thought, he has worn himself out fighting for our freedom. He has given up as much as we have. Many of the soldiers were so ashamed that they began to cry. They told one another, if George Washington can wait a little longer to get paid, we can too. He is right. The important thing is to make sure we start a country in which people work together to make decisions, not a king or a queen or an army. What the words written on those pages had not done, Washington had done by putting on his spectacles. The soldiers were able to see how much he sacrificed for the country, and the soldiers agreed to do as he asked, and then later they did get paid. A few years later, after the war was over and Americans were choosing the first president of the United States of America, people knew whom they could trust. They asked George Washington to be the first president. We need you just a little while longer, they told him. Not as a general, but as our president. And as always, when the American people needed him, George Washington said yes. At the beginning of yesterday's and today's lesson, I wanted you to think about how people felt about seeing George Washington in his spectacles or glasses. Draw a picture and write, how did seeing George Washington with his spectacles on convince the soldiers to support his idea and his position about how we should be as a country? Until next time. In our read aloud today, we heard that we would be no better than the old kind of rule of a monarchy or a king. Say monarchy with me. 1, 2, 3. Monarchy. Monarchy means a form of government led by a king or queen. If a country is ruled by a king, then its government is a monarchy. If the government is run by a president, it is more of a democracy or republic. So if something is a monarchy, you'll say that is a monarchy. If it is not, you'll say that is not a monarchy. Here we go. A kingdom ruled by a queen. Absolutely, that is a monarchy. A democracy like the United States. Fantastic. That is not that is not a monarchy. A king's empire. Thumbs up for you. That is a monarchy. How about a government with a president? Spot on. That is not a monarchy. And last one, what about a state with a governor? That's a little tricky, but you're right. That is not a monarchy. Well, until our next learning time.